In today's society, more and more men are struggling with identity crisis and lack of structure. And it's not because they don't know who they are. It's because society has told us who we're required to be as men. How we're supposed to act, think, conduct ourselves, ultimately dictating the type of man we're supposed to be. And by the time many of us realize it, we've already spent our entire lives investing into others, time, energy, loyalty, money, effort, and resources in everyone and everything else around us. And what do we get in return? Heartbreak, pain, betrayal, doubt, grief, lack of ambition, unbearable pain, bills and financial hardship, the constant beatdown from life like a bully in school, and the constant battles of self-sabotage, self-worth, questioning your own value, and questioning if you were ever enough to begin with. Because what were we taught? Deal with it. Figure it out. Be a man. Don't be vulnerable or weak. Go hit the gym. Take care of it. Push through it. Work harder. Stay locked in. And don't let anyone, especially not a woman, in. But the hardest muscle in your body that you're ever going to work out and that you're ever going to work yourself out of is your brain. The mind can feel like a jail cell. You could feel like a prisoner in your own mind. You could get lost in the abyss of what if. And depending how much you muscle through it, the deeper you sink into the quicksand of doubt, regret, self-worth, false narratives, and old wounds. See, most men are taught how to survive from their fathers, their uncles, grandfathers, father adjacent figures like a brother, cousin, even friends or peers. While some of us get that opportunity, others aren't so lucky enough to have that chance and are taught by life, the expectations of society, experience, and the ruthless and unforgiving nature of their own minds. More and more men are struggling in silence, seeking guidance in therapy or counseling sessions. More men are turning to alcohol, drugs, unhealthy addictions such as gambling, and others. Anything to just numb the pain and silence the noise. There are more men fighting invisible battles and carrying unforeseeable burdens than we would like to admit, myself included. All while hiding it so well that no one else seems to notice or bother to even check in with them. This unbearable weight and expectations, the hardship that we endure, has led to an increase in suicide rates. More men are learning to cope in suffocating silence rather than to speak their concerns, issues, or problems that they're going through. This is what society has taught us a real man is supposed to look like, act like, and feel like. And it's been passed down generation to generation to generation. We've been taught as men to overcome, adapt, and endure. And honestly, life is the worst teacher you can ever have. Society's expectations are never going to end, and they're never going to change. So what do we do as men then? We instantly go into survival mode, fight or flight, grind mode, or worse, decide to suffer in isolation. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of these are not bad by themselves. They can actually be extremely healthy, but in moderation and a good mindset. It can teach discipline, resilience, structure, and it could teach a man how to learn to carry the burden of responsibility and accountability. However, this was never meant to be our default setting. Yet, in society today, that's normal. And this, among many other things, is what this channel is here to address. Now, I'm not here to tell you that life's going to be easy, because it's not. You're going to endure more beatdowns than any man should. You're going to have to carry unexplainable burdens, and the weight is going to be unbearable at times. You're going to have to sacrifice more than you're willing to compromise. However, we should be able to have these difficult conversations. A lot of men never have the chance to. This channel is meant to provide men with a safe space, dialect, and structure that was never expanded upon. This channel is here to provide discipline, direction, confidence, guidance, and remind you of your purpose. We are here to build the necessary foundation and structure every man should have so they can build with intent. Because most of us, myself included, forged our foundation under pressure, during disappointment, shaped ourselves from necessity of survival, not by the priority of our wants, needs, or vision. So today we are going to address identity, because in order for a man to change his life, he has to understand the man he became. I think the biggest lie most men tell themselves is that we know ourselves. And the reason I say that is because we know our responsibilities, but when you take those responsibilities away, do you really know who you are? We use our responsibilities to define us as men. What needs to be paid, what needs to be handled, how to handle it, who depends on us, what they need from us, and the expectations that others have of us. But when that noise finally quiets down and no one is around, when the silence speaks louder than your thoughts, whew, yeah, you're left questioning who you truly are. And that disconnect can actually bleed into other parts of your life. Recognizing it doesn't happen when you're falling apart. It normally starts happening when you least expect it. Not during a crisis, not during a breakup. The fractures started happening before that. So you could still be capably functional, but internally, you don't even feel connected to yourself anymore. Life taught you how to keep moving and put out fires while doing it. So you stop checking on yourself. You stop focusing on all your wants, forget all your needs, and you become good at pushing through the day, handling pressure, working under pressure. You become good at overcoming, adapting, and enduring. But these three things are not the same as accountability. They don't address the underlying concern, because from the outside looking in, everything looks okay. But internally, you've been drifting further and further away from yourself. I think a lot of men are lost not because they lack ambition or the ability. I think we're lost because we spent so many years becoming whoever and whatever life required us to be. And after a while, you forget what parts of you were chosen and what parts of you were created from expectations and experience. This is why identity is so important, because identity is who you are when life requires nothing from you. I'll say that again. Identity is who you are when life requires nothing from you. And if a man didn't build himself intentionally, life will build the man society expects him to be. To others, you might be the one who looks like he's got it all figured out, regardless the obstacles he faced. But when you look in the mirror, do you recognize the man you are? Can you tell where the man life forced you to become ends and the man you chose to be begins? Because when a man doesn't know who he truly is, he starts borrowing identities from anything that gives him validation. Money, status, work, your self-image, control. None of these are wrong when by themselves, but they cannot become the foundation that you build your life upon. Because if your identity depends on things that can be taken from you, then your value will always be determined for you. I think one of the loneliest things a man can experience is realizing he doesn't know who he is, that he has given so much to the world to receive nothing in return. To realize that he built his life for others and helped others establish their life, but forgot his own wants and his own needs. See, this exact disconnect is toxic for a man, because you can still be respected, you could still be successful, you can still be valued, you could still be productive, you could still maintain your composure and your demeanor very well, but slowly be dying inside. You become more irritated, harder to approach, harder to talk to, harder to reach, less connected to things that gave you purpose, like your passions, your morals, your values. Your confidence starts to decay into doubt. Your discipline starts to waver. Relationships feel more distant, whether that's friendships or relationships with family too. And it's not because you don't care, it's just because the version of you that currently exists is misaligned. It's one of my favorite words, misaligned, because men think they're being lazy when they may just be misaligned. I'm curious how many men will actually relate to this. Have you ever had a moment where you realized that you weren't yourself, or the person you wanted to be, or the person you imagined yourself becoming? You didn't become the man that you wanted to be. Where did it go wrong? When did you first realize it? Did it come after heartbreak, after losing your job, failure? Did you lose a loved one that you truly cared about? Did life make you realize this is not who you want to be? Did you chase something that you were so eager to have, and when you got it, it just didn't fill the void? If you feel comfortable enough, drop your experiences in the comments. I truly believe more men need to hear experiences like this, because wisdom comes from experience. You'll be surprised how many people you can help from experiences you had to endure. So my conclusion, men aren't broken. I think a lot of us are carrying a version of ourselves that we don't recognize because we built this version of us out of survival mode. And we've never had the time, the space, or were ever taught to be able to talk about these type of topics. We were never taught how to analyze and harness the survival mode instead of it becoming a default setting that we live in on the daily. So it defines us. So who do you want to be? What type of man do you want to be? Did you build who you are, or did society determine it for you? Because becoming a better man is not about abandoning who you are. It's about finally understanding yourself well enough to be able to build with intention. And that exact foundation is what Pillar is built off of. So in the next episode, we're going to talk more about Pillar itself. Pillar is not a hype or motivational platform. It's a concept, a tool used to build infrastructure, a place where men can think clear, have open conversations, grow honestly, build discipline, develop self-awareness, and are welcomed as they are, no matter where they are in their walk and journey of life. And the biggest thing I want to stop, men thinking that they have to bear these burdens alone. So I look forward to having you along on this journey as we continue to build better men, one pillar at a time.